Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? I hope you're well. Welcome to May. Oh my goodness. I think May is one of my favourite months in the garden because in so many ways May is the month when it all happens. It's pretty much the month when the whole garden happens. Yeah, pretty much. Loads of sowing to do. I'll go into detail in a second, but yeah, as I was mentioning, sorry, I'm a bit of a wriggly girl this morning. As I was mentioning in which video, when I was sowing my parsnips and carrots, it was great to get to the end of April and to catch up, or to at least feel like I've caught up on things which some of them I would have liked to have done in March. Never mind, we were chilly at night, it doesn't matter. But really, May is the month when we see the big changes in the garden. I'm looking out there now and still there are 12 beds which haven't been sown. 3 of them are clear. Is it 3? Oh, I don't know, I can't remember. But there are a few beds out there which still have last year's brassicas in, which have blown. I've left them for the bees, but they will be coming out soon. So half of the garden at the moment still looks like the tail end of last year. By the end of May, there'll pretty much be no sign of last year's garden. It will all be this year's garden. Oh, I can't wait. So in terms of sowing, now obviously I'm speaking from my experience here with my climate and my soil. As you will have seen in the last few videos, I've just got my potatoes, my onions, carrots, parsnips, leeks in. If you haven't yet, there is still time, so you can get all of those things going in May too. The big thing for me in May, beans. It's bean month. Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. And I was just quickly get all my beans are up on the shelf in the top of the shed, just going through them, and I suddenly remembered, I don't think they'll make them out, I've got 4, there we go, there's 4 beans in there, and this is the black Churchill beans. Never heard of them, can't find them anywhere. Came from a pod from one of my friends across the main path. So I'm going to try and grow these this year. Beautiful purple, green, like a runner bean, with a green pod streaked with a really dark, rich purple. They're going to look gorgeous, gorgeous on the plants. Can't wait. So I'm hoping from these 4, I'm hoping to get 4 plants. And then from those 4 plants, I will save 20, 30 seeds for next year. Brilliant. Yeah, can't wait. So, the way I've always done my garden historically, obviously I've got things which I started at home indoors in February and March, so peppers, tomatoes, celery, all those things which need quite a long growing season, but they need to be started when we're still really quite cold, so start them at home. Then there's been that handful of things that have gone into the ground direct in April: potatoes, onions, carrots, parsnips, leeks. And then May is the big sowing session for me, and I've always liked to sow direct. It saves me on having to buy compost to start things in pots or seed trays, what have you. It saves me doing transplants, saves me on pricking out, all those kind of things. It just saves time and money. However, there are some things which in the last couple of years in particular, when I've sown them direct, have been massacred by various pests, and the main one for that is my beans and legumes. So again this year I will be sowing some of them direct and some of them in pots as a backup. So all my different beans, all my climbing beans, bush beans, I only do 2 varieties. I do the lovely yellow waxy rock and core. That's a bean for eating the whole pod. And then of course the star of my show every single year, the star of my kitchen, Coco de Pampol, another bush bean harvested for the beans, not the pod, when they're really at their plumpest just before they start to dry. So 2 bush beans plus my chickpeas. I'll be doing those this month, yes. It suddenly feels a little bit chilly today. It's quite dark, clouds are coming over. I'm like, am I in the right month? Yes, I am. Also, direct sowing, I will be doing chard, perpetual spinach, some beetroot, have I got some beetroot? If I haven't, it doesn't matter. Salad leaves. What else? I've suddenly gone blank. Basically, if I haven't started it at home already, and if it's not those handful of things I got in the ground in April, it will all happen in May. Oh yeah, so I also started at home my squash. 2 have appeared so far. Come on, hurry up. One of the jobs to think about for this month, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. Let's stick with seed sowing. Yeah, if you haven't sown it yet, it's time to sow it. That's the bottom line. Whatever hasn't been started yet, start it now. It's probably, I was going to say it might be too late for tomatoes to start them, but if you've got a greenhouse, you could probably just get away with it starting them now, because in about 6 or 7 weeks they'd be ready to be, you know, potted into their final position. But you'd need to extend that season into sort of September, beginning of October to get a really good harvest. Yeah, it might be worth a go. Let me get my notes out. One of the things I haven't started yet indoors, which I will, are my cucumbers. Normally, previously, I've started them in mid-April along with my squash. However, if you remember, I'm experimenting a bit this year to start them slightly later so that the fruits come a little bit later, because every year I have an absolute glut of gorgeous cucumbers about a month before my tomatoes are ripe enough to have. So I'm hoping this year to time it so that my cucumbers come as my tomatoes are ripening, because the 2 of those together with a red onion and a lump of feta cheese, my favourite thing to eat in the summer. So that's the last thing to sow at home. And like I said, otherwise, in the garden now, literally everything is going to be chucked at it. But the big one, it's the beans and the legumes. Once beans and legumes are in, I will end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll have 8 beds ready but empty at the end of May, and those 8 beds will be for tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, peppers. It's all those beautiful summer veg fruit that really don't like getting chilly. The planting of them will all depend on our nighttime temperatures. Once we're consistently above 6, 7, 8 degrees at night, thinking about wind chill as well, that's when they can be planted out. So one of the big jobs in May, let's just talk a little bit about the jobs for May, is to begin the process of hardening all my delicate things off. Excuse me one moment. Right, as we were, a little interruption, that was our lovely Kay coming over and bringing me a ton of bubble wrap to reuse. Thank you, Kay. Do you know what though? Oh, I've just put my hoodie on. The temperature, it feels like it's dropped. We've suddenly gone really overcast. So that's a good, all right, little wriggle. That's a good kind of segue into what I was saying a moment ago about hardening off. So, yes, jobs for May. Apart from all this sowing, this process of hardening off. So all the plants that I've started at home, tomatoes, peppers, squash, celery, they have been in a really lovely, cosy, warm environment. Mostly in my south-facing window, So even at night at the moment, the temperature doesn't go much below sort of 16 degrees in my flat. In the day, in that window, it's getting up to sort of 25, 30 some days. So if I brought those plants straight from the house and planted them out, it would be a massive, massive shock for them. Now, I know a lot of you know this already, but for those of you who are new this year, so what I will do is in stages. I've already done it with the peppers. They come out of my flat, they go into my landing, my hallway area, which is north facing, so it's much cooler, but it's still considerably warmer than the garden, especially at night time. They'll have a week or so on the landing, then they'll start to come to the garden. I'll put them in the cold frame. At night time, the cold frame will be completely closed. Excuse me, just keeping that temperature up a little bit, keeping them protected from any cold winds. And then every day, the cold frame will be completely opened up, so they'll get breezes. And eventually, they'll toughen up enough to be in their big girl trousers outside in the garden around about the beginning of June. So now, each time I come to the garden, one of the things I'll be thinking about in my back of my mind is bring a couple of bags of plants down with me to start that process, because there are a lot of seedlings to get down here. Obviously, I'm just carrying them, so it will almost be a daily occurrence through May. So yes, hardening our plants off throughout May. By about the beginning of June, everything will be planted out into the garden. So whilst I'm doing that, bringing them down and hardening them off, that gives me time to prepare all their beds for them. Other jobs to think about in May, as this temperature warms up. Now, we're really not getting any rain at the moment, which slows this down, that I'm about to talk about. But if we do get some rain, they'll go mad. The weeds. We're going to start seeing annual weeds appearing. So these are weeds which will have been made last year by weeds getting slightly too big, developing seed heads, dropping their seeds. So it's around about now that we're really going to start seeing our little annual weeds coming up. They're so little you can either hoe them off, or like me, I just go around plucking them out of the ground. The other thing that we will start to see now more and more are any of our perennial weeds that we didn't get out last year. For me, in my garden, that means bindweed and couch grass. So it's a really good thing in May to keep an eye on the beds, see any of those perennials that are coming up, and before the beds have been planted or seeded, now is the chance to, either with your horry knife or a fork, is to get right down and see if you can get to the end of that root and get the whole thing out. So whilst we're doing our hardening off and getting seeds started in pots or whatever, we're really, really focusing on our bed prep too. Keep on top of those weeds. The more we do now, then the less we'll have to do throughout the rest of the summer. What else have I put on my list? Watering, obviously. The more things we put into the ground, the more we need to think about watering wherever it's needed. And of course, when it's seed or small things like the onions that are only sitting in the top inch or so of soil, that's the bit of the soil that's going to dry out really quickly, both from sunshine, from wind, whatever it is. So always be thinking about the watering this month and through the summer. Oh, and then of course the big changes in May. This is time to think about getting our plant support structures up and built. Whether it's your teepees for your climbing beans, or like me, I will make my bean arch structures again. The teepees for climbing squash. Keep your eyes peeled if people are cutting down trees in your neighbourhood, if you can scavenge long, straight lengths of trees to use as support. I will be building a climbing frame for my cucumbers again. Yeah, it really is a wonderfully busy, bonkers month is May. And I can't wait, I can't wait. I think one of the things I love each year is sort of seeing where the garden's at the beginning of May, fast forward to June, and it just looks so different. It's an entirely different garden almost. Like I'm saying, at the moment it's still, half of it is still the winter garden and last year's garden. In another month, there'll be no sign of it. It'll be this year's garden. Can't wait, bring it on. So, all right, my lovelies, I'm going to keep this one a quick one today because I'm getting really chilly. It's crazy. I've got a few things to do out there, a bit of watering, as always. I'm going to have a quick look around all my beds now to see if any of that naughty bindweed is starting to show. Yes, time for an inspection. So I will see you all again really soon, I hope. It'll be time to do the May tour, so you'll be able to see the changes that have happened in the last 2.5 weeks since the April tour, or 3 weeks, because I was really late doing the April tour. But hopefully you'll be excited for me to see all those changes that have happened already, and more to come in May. So for now, please look after yourselves, look after each other, get out into the garden consistently. That's the key. Consistent care of your beds and your garden. Get on. Yay! I will see you all again really soon. So until then, yeah, take care of yourselves. Cheerio from me. And no cats today. I think they're all hiding. Bye for now, everyone.